And we are back with coverage, hopefully without further issue for the day. I do apologize for the inconvenience, but it doesn't seem like we have missed much in the time being.
No, Alizai has been sticking pretty much to the back end of Dominic Ladler. I've just noticed that Roan de Hood has slipped down to 5th place and he seems to be catching up to everyone else. So I'll try to find out why that happened.
He
seemed to be
at the entry to the motordrome.
Yeah, he did seem to be pretty kind of much on his own, so I think it must have been an unforced error. But I will try to find out for you.
Two of the Porsches in the gravel trap stuck with each other. Cesko also very far down the order, missing a good chunk of his front left quarter panel with Piotr Zadaibu just behind him. So Cesko not really having the best race here right now. And Alizaya trying to attack Dominic Ladler into the Mercedes arena. Just showing himself for now. And Cyril Rosa in P6 still without that door. Now gets Julian Chicot for company. After dropping down early.
He was coming into the last section. Rowan just dipped a outside wheel onto the gravel and spun round. He's just a little bit of user error there, I'm afraid. But he's still kind of within shouting distance. He's only a second off Enrico Breininger.
And the race is still 35 minutes long, so he should have all the time he needs to make up that lost time. Julian Chicot going down the inside of Lance De La Rosa. Can he keep it in front, the hairpin? Slipstream, of course, now in favor of Lance, but with that door, maybe losing a bit of top speed. Going for the outside.
Interesting weight-saving techniques, though.
I mean, luckily for him, Hockenheim, a track where the mechanical grip is a big part of the overall lap time, but Julian Chicot made that work quite well there with the hairpin. Nicholas Kelly quite telling. Oh, that is maybe a bit of commentator's curse there. Losing the rear, exiting.
Ooh, and that was a close one getting out of the way there.
Akira letting Tony Thomas through, so maybe there's been some contact between these two. Both very fair drivers.
Yeah, they're both people we've seen around quite a bit and they know each other, so I don't know, maybe Mark here is just deciding he doesn't want to fight it.
There's some damage to the front left, which especially at Hockenheim can hurt quite a bit. But that was also before. That was when he dropped down to 10th after being 7th and in the fight with Bräuninger, and I think it was Lance De La Rosa who already came into the picture there. And out front it's still Alizaya hunting down Dominic Ladler. It's not the first time this season.
Dominic Ladler leading the race now. I think, kind of as we were saying before, he's gained 3 places from the beginning of the race, so he was a little off pace as far as the qualifying is concerned, but He always manages to find his way through when it comes to race pace.
Yeah, race pace definitely his big strength. That's why typically the races he wins are a bit longer. If you remember back to the race special event, which was 2 hours at this track, he was just caught up by Ray very late in the race, but also had a very strong performance throughout. And Maki already pushing Tony Thomas through the Motodrome sector. Can go fast.
Big gap ahead of Tony Thomas, so he's if he's going to get past and make up anything in that gap, he's going to have to do it fairly quickly.
Alizai potentially with a good chance here. He's just getting close again. I think he's trying to get a good exit for the Mercedes arena each time, but the Porsche just so strong out of the hairpin. And Rondenhood now right on the bumper of Enrico Bräuninger. Is he going to try something into Mercedes arena? He's going for the outside. He's braking late. And very nice move there by Rondenhood.
Yeah, dancing it right on the edge there. You could see the back end of the Porsche squirming around. Rowan currently with the fastest lap prize for the race, or with a 1:37.2.
Oh, and Enrico Bräuninger giving a little bump to Rondenhood, half spinning in the process. Don't think that was on purpose, but definitely something that Julian Chicot likes to see.
Well, Julian Chicot's got his own problems right now with Lance Rosa just behind him. A lot of fighting going on the grid today.
Also some fighting going on between our lone BMW in the hands of Piotr Zadaibe and Nicholas Kelly in the Aston Martin. Of course, he's trying to make up some positions after his fortunate spin in the hairpin. As we go side by side for the lead between Alizai and Dominik Ladler. And again, Dominik Ladler just with so much traction out of the hairpin.
Yeah, Alizai seems to be dogging his every move at the minute. He's right on his back bumper. But doesn't seem to quite be able to make something stick on the Porsche when it comes to exiting corners.
What I find interesting is how much trust these two put into each other. If you just look closely going into the Mercedes arena, you could see that Alizai was basically crossing into the path of Dominik Ladler. He showed himself and then went back on the racing line. Now you would say that's nothing special, but how close he was to the Porsche. It's easy if the Porsche just braked a bit harder, if possible, or if Alizai couldn't get this car stopped in time for him to rear end, but he knows that Dominik Ladler is getting off the brakes when you expect him to. But now Alizai with a good chance.
They've been racing together here on RENNSPORT for a long, long time, and they give each other a lot of respect, a lot of space, or just enough space, I think, which is the important thing. They know how much space they have to give each other, and they do it. Ali swapping from one side to the other, seeing if he can make a little break.
Look at this, they crossed lines at least twice in this fight since turn 2. Now Dominik Ladler on the inside line. Alizai this time with the better traction, slight contact because Dominik Ladler was losing the rear, but keeps in front of Alizai here. And once again,
Tim Schroeder back there must be loving this though, because every little time they fight is a couple of tenths he gets closer.
Same potential you can say for Rondenhood. Of course, that's a bit of a gap to him, but it's not impossible to catch up.
No, definitely not. Especially if Tim Schroeder joins the fight. The three-way fight's only going to slow these two deep front down even more.
Chess making a move on Millop for P12. Going in very deep in the hairpin, the car in front. That should be Relana. Couldn't make the move stick this time around. And Tim Schroeder is really getting close. Again, 2/10 lost over or gained on Dominik Ladler.
Yeah, he's getting within the magic kind of second barrier, and he's going to start getting a decent amount of slipstream on the long straights. So, I mean, luckily Alizai has dropped back a little bit, so there's not quite as much of a disturbance to the pace of the front two. But Tim Schroeder's got to be sniffing his chance and pushing a little bit harder.
For Dominik Ladler and Alizai, the gap is still shrinking. Oh, and Dominik Ladler very hard into the turn. We see a lot of parts lying around there. That is from the 17 car of Hexisaurus. Also, of course, for Ron and Hurt, as we see one car without a wing, actually. That is the 20 of Martin Stanek. And Enrico Bräuninger and Ron and Hurt now having to maneuver past them. Meanwhile, Cesco moved up into 11th. So we have the fight between Nicholas Kelly and Piotr Zadaib. And Piotr Zadaib seems to have been a bit wide, exiting the hairpin. And now diving down the inside, getting it stopped in time, but very good defense there by Nicholas Kelly, keeping it tight around the outside.
Now 17 and 20 going into the pits right now for a bit of repairs. 17 especially crabbing an awful lot. So he managed to stay off the track for a lot of it, but he's got a big old repair job going on.
And still Dominik Ladler and Alizai not giving each other any chance to get past or to drive peacefully in the case of Dominik Ladler. Tim Schroeder now within a second of these two.
And some flyer also in the pits. Seems to be a bit of a Porsche club going on in there.
On board with Tim Schroeder in his purple beast. Of course, Alizai in the Mercedes, Dominik Ladler in the Porsche, they drive very radically different lines at certain parts. I think most notable in the section coming up turns 2 and 3, where we usually see Dominik Ladler keeping it very tight towards the inside, Alizai going wide, and you can see it again. But both making it work.
Owen de Horde seems to have lost a little bit of time to the front three. He's 10 seconds back now. Tim Schroeder making it definitely a 3-car train as they come up behind some lap traffic, who is not making it easy for them.
Yeah, very tricky situation for Marcel as well. But he's lifting out of the way for the 3 of them. Oh, and Tim Schroeder very late on the brakes, can keep it still on track and most notably out of the rear end of Alizai, but that must have been a bit of a scary moment there for him.
Yeah, you don't want to catch up with the lead 2 and then immediately take them both out. That would not be a good time on the Discord.
Like he was in P8 now, so he moved past P Kosluk. Still has him 1.5 seconds back, but that's enough of a cushion for him, I'd presume. And here for Ron, as you said, dropped down a bit, but I think that was most notably due to the 2 lapped cars and the yellow flag situation we had in the Mercedes arena earlier, because they seem to have crashed quite heavily. And I think Ron doesn't want to take risks. Yeah. I mean, with the Evo package coming out, you don't necessarily waste money on that, right? Aliza again, and this time towards the inside. Can he outbrake the Porsche? They go side by side. Now the traction of the Porsche definitely better. And we drag race towards the Mercedes arena. Aliza definitely trying something different here, and it seems to work.
Dominic Ledler's still alongside, having the racing line running a little bit wide. Ali swapping to the other side of the track.
Oh, but losing rear end and allowing Dominic Ledler to retain the lead, and Tim Schroeder to also use his flasher a bit on Aliza, yeah?
The long-awaited return of the Tim Schroeder flash.
And the top 3 at just a bit after half race distance, within 5/10 of a second. All of them very aggressive over the curb on the inside of turn 1. Again, the flasher used by Aliza, having a look down the inside, braking very late. He's edging Dominic Ledler out, but he ran a bit wide in the process. And now is the chance for Tim Schroeder. Aliza again loose on the rear end. Tim Schroeder going to the inside. And up into second. So Dominic Ledler now has a different car behind, but it's still a fast AMG. I'm not sure that is much more comforting for him.
Probably not, no. It's, if anything, it's somebody slightly more aggressive, which you might choose to take either way, I suppose.
But what's interesting is that the gap has grown to 1 second. I mean, of course, that was due to the overtake, but actually Tim Schroeder lost quite a bit entering, or exiting more importantly, the Mercedes arena. As Nicholas Kelly is making a move to go up into 12. In the background we see the BMW of Piotr Zajajba as well. And that is Nicholas Kelly up into 12th. Tony Thomas, meanwhile, still running up in 9th, and this is a good amount of points for him as well.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad race for Tony Thomas so far. He's gained 2 places from his qualifying position. He's running a pretty decent pace. Not quite on the pace of the people like Mark Herath ahead of him, but he's not doing bad. He's got a bit of a gap to Kosluk, so I think he's going to be feeling pretty happy about that position right now.
Just finishing this race would already mean he would be up on 58 points. Would put him somewhere in the region of P9 to 10 in the standings, if I see that correct. No, actually quite a bit higher, P8, potentially. Only jumped by this man, who's just behind in the standings of the drivers currently driving on 34 points. But P2 would already give him a good amount of points. We are looking especially with his points from qualifying, the pole position. Looking at about 25 points for Tim Schroeder. But this race is far from over.
Martin Stanek deciding to call it a day and retire into the pits. We've had 3 retirees so far, still 17 cars on track.
And the track is pretty busy if you take a look at the track map on the top right. The cars are very spread out, but not many of them really driving alone. We see the 3 car and potentially the 15 that are having none around, but the rest always at least see somebody on the straights.
Yeah, it's a pretty kind of like fragmented but still action-packed grid right now, which is good to see. I think it's particularly good for us as commentary, as we get to move around the place and talk about different people.
A little bit of a synchronized lose we end moment for Piotr Zadajbel and Vredlana.
Tim Schroeder almost taking the fastest lap of the race, doing a 1:37.273, but not quite able to dethrone still current leader Rowan de Herd with a 1:37.219.
Yeah, Rowan de Herd had some very good pace earlier in this race.
Yeah, he seems to have found his way a little bit more. He's starting to pick up speed a bit, but I think he is suffering from a bit of aero damage. Maybe from contact with back markers, or he had that little contact with Enrico Breuninger.
And the off, where he lost the back end.
Yeah, he did have the off. He didn't hit the barriers, but it can still damage your aero as you're bouncing around on the grass.
And Tim Schroeder in the same predicament that Ali Zaya was in just a few laps earlier. Can get close to the Porsche, although he's not getting as close as Ali was. But most notably, he can't really pass him because the Porsche is so good on traction in the key areas of this track. And it's not really easy to use the potential of the Porsche, but if you know how to do it, it can be a very, very powerful car.
Yeah, it's definitely a Porsche specialist kind of thing, which you don't necessarily get with the other cars. But yeah, Tim Schroeder and Ali Zahir's positions kind of almost reversed here, because if Tim Schroeder can hold up Dominic Ladler, then Ali Zahir can come back into this and turn this into another 3-way fight. Maybe see if he can get his second place or even a first place out of that kind of chaos that ensues. We know from previous races Tim Schroeder maybe a little bit more aggressive than Ali Zahir, and if you can get a couple of tenths closer, I think we'll see him start to take any and every opportunity he has available to him.
Very much so. But he also knows he still has nearly 15 minutes to make a move. And they have a 1.5 second gap to Ali Zahir, and I'm sure in his head is like, if I attack Dominic Ladler now, we will lose that 1.5 second lead. I will be back in danger of getting passed by Ali Zahir. But if they push together for a bit of time, they can build up enough of a gap to fight without having to worry about Ali in this race.
Yeah, true. We'll see whether the devil or the angel on his shoulder win in this fight or not.
Or maybe it's not that tactical and really just can't get close to the Porsche in the crucial areas. As
maybe.
They are also closing in on this fight still between Lana and Piotr Zadajbel, who's having a tough time getting past. There was a bit of contact exiting turn 1 last time around. But they're still going, and they're still going at it.
Yeah, they're about 8 seconds behind that fight on track right now, so not an immediate problem, but that could well be a golden opportunity for Tim Schroeder or even Ali Zahir if that fight is still going on when these leaders catch up to it.
Also an interesting point is that there's still 4.5 seconds between Julian Chicot and Enrico Bräuninger, so while he could make up the first 3 positions quite quickly after losing them, as Tim Schroeder's going to the inside now and going in very deep. That was way too late, and Piotr Zadybis actually also spun around at the same place. He is still in front of Ali Zahir, but that lost him quite some time.
Not too bad running deep at that hairpin there, because you can just straighten it up and go straight on the accelerator and kind of catch the time back up again. Because you're losing time at a point where everyone else is going slow as well.
I think Piotr Zadybis will also be kicking himself because he again has to fight Porsche. This time in the hands of Milo, but I think he just made it through without many issues there.
Yeah, it was very good of him to wait there. He obviously saw the leaders coming and just decided to stay predictable, stay still, and let them get past before he carried on. But it can feel like an eternity when you're in a racing car.
Looking at lap times, Julian Chicot is only 10th or 2 faster than Enrico Bräuninger on the last few laps. It will be hard for him to really catch that up with 10 minutes remaining. So unless something happens to the Aston Martin of Enrico Bräuninger, I don't think that his P5 will be in danger.
A fun fact about fastest laps right now. Enrico Bräuninger's fastest lap is a 1:38.133. Julian Chicot's fastest lap is a 1:38.132.
There's only one way to get closer than this, and this is by equaling the lap time. We actually never, and I don't think we will ever encounter it, but we never had the scenario of 2 people setting the same best lap time. But I wonder...
No, I don't think we have.
Maybe we need to include a rule for that to see what is done with the points, but I think that's a worry for later.
That's very true.
Unless one of the top 3 drivers...
All the game only shows 3 decimal places, then, but it actually knows it down to even less. But I don't know. Maybe it just randomizes it. Who knows?
I think it's an interesting topic though, because of course in real life, nowadays, you can also go down much deeper, but still, at some point people decided, okay, 3 digits, that's it. Of course, you have this famous 3-way tie between Schumacher, Villeneuve and Frentzen, I think it was, in Formula 1 from 97, if I remember that correctly. And there it was decided by who set the lap time first, which was Villeneuve. Nowadays you could go in deeper, but people still decided to go with the 3 digits, so this is theoretically still possible, which I find quite interesting. But here comes Schroeder. He doesn't worry about equaling lap times. He wants that first place. And he's going towards the outside to get it. But we have a lap car again in front of us. Trying to go for the switchback. The 15 car of Milo trying to stay as much out of the way as possible. But still, Dominic Ladler keeping the lead.
Yeah, Dominic went for a bit of a cheeky move there of, okay, Schroeder, if you want to get past me, you've got to take the same line as the lapped car ahead. So it was a bit of a cunning boxing in move early on, but it ended up not really being needed because the lapped car got well out of the way.
That's the view Dominic Ladler had for the last 37 minutes, just in 2 different colors. And again,
if he happens to only see monochrome, then we practically just have the same view.
But again, I think especially from this view you can see how different of a line Tim Schroeder takes to Dominik Ladler.
But Ali Zahir doesn't seem to be closing up so much. Schroeder and Ladler having a bit of a fight, but Zahir doesn't seem to be able to capitalise on it so much.
Again to the outside, Tim Schroeder. Keeps it around the outside. Oh, but this time very good traction for the AMG, and now it's a drag race. And we have the Aston Martin of Kelly also in front of them. Dominik Ladler super late on the brakes, can still get the car stopped in time and stays in front of Tim Schroeder.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if Tim Schroeder backed out of that, but I think it was just Dominik Ladler being super late on the brakes, but still holding his line.
I think you couldn't have braked any later than that, and especially on the outside, on that turn you can find some grip. On the inside you run in danger of hitting the curb, which throws you really far outside, so I think Tim Schroeder really wanted to avoid that happening. But the Porsche, of course, so strong on the brakes compared to the AMG. And Dominik Ladler using every bit of it as Nicholas Kelly is getting out of the way as soon as possible. Very fair play to him there.
Well, something that happened there has really let Ali Zahir catch up, because he is on the tail end of this three-way fight now. Hopefully Tim Schroeder hasn't been too tunnel visioned on Dominik Ladler ahead of him, otherwise he could get a nasty surprise.
But it's also just 5 minutes remaining, so the chances for him are running thin, and he knows that Ali Zahir tried for 20 minutes to get past Dominik Ladler. Now Tim Schroeder looking down the inside, but there's no chance of catching Dominik Ladler off guard.
Yeah, they both had to take the defensive line there, which meant Ali Zahir closed up a little bit more. He's definitely looking like he's getting within striking distance.
Thing is, you can't really switch off from this fight because there's constantly stuff going on. But I also I just want to mention that Lance La Rosa is still running in 7th in a very good debut here today. Makiwa 7 seconds behind. And so far, I mean, with all the fighting that also has been going on for him, he is not that far off the second group of Den He to Sheiko. So I think that is a good show he puts on here today. And potentially also the comeback drive from Nicholas Kelly after his unfortunate spin in the hairpin. Got up to 12th place. Same for Cesco Manuia, up into 11th.
Yeah, Enrico Breininger in his same as his qualifying position right now. Same as Ali Zahir as it currently stands, qualified in 3rd, currently in 3rd. Kozluk also in 9th where he qualified.
Oh, aggressive dive here by Tim Schroeder. This time on the inside, exiting the hairpin. And again, Dominik Ladler just has it covered. Oh, but that was a very close situation again between the two of them.
Yeah, only 3 minutes left of the race here. There's a lot of spare clear air ahead of Dominik Ladler, so that it's going to be nobody else getting in the way of this fight. So it's just going to be these three battling it out until the end of the race, I think. Ali Zahir seems to have been fairly composed and just staying at the back and waiting to see what happens.
Well, if these two clash, then he might be the lucky third to just go through and win.
It's very true, and he's staying close enough that if he sees an opportunity, he can go for it, and I'm sure he will. He should be getting a pretty decent double draft down the big straight into the hairpin. But he just seems to be choosing to stay out of it for now.
3 cars covered under a blanket for the last 2 minutes of this race, for potentially the final 2 laps of this race, before we head into the season finale in 2 weeks at Daytona. And this time a good exit again for Dominic Ladler. It just keeps on happening.
Yeah, Tim Schroeder's, I think it's about 3rd lap in a row he's tried it into this corner, but Dominic's just able to take the wide line and keep the power on and come out on top every time. I think the only saving grace for Tim Schroeder's there is that it also holds up Ali Zahir, so he's not able to make an overtake attempt through it.
They should not have traffic for the remainder of the race as well, which I think some will be very happy to hear. Especially the man up front.
Still 11 seconds ahead. But this should be the last lap round now, I think.
Yeah, it should be the last lap. So will Tim Schroeder try anything to get past, or really just try again but play it a bit safe to still keep second? I expect the first.
I've got to admit I would accept the first 2.
Oh, and he's...
By either... Ooh, that was a lot of switching lines.
Both just covering each other off multiple times there. Tim Schroeder faking to the inside, going to the outside, but it didn't work again. Dominic Ladler with the perfect answer to that move. This time Tim Schroeder strong on the brakes into the Mercedes arena, but Dominic Ladler using all the track, getting the car sideways. It's a piece of paper you can fit between those 2 cars. Barely.
I don't know whether it was accidental or by design, but Ali Zahir's dropped a couple of tenths back. I'm wondering if he's just giving himself a little more reaction time in case things go south ahead of him.
Well, luckily for Dominic Ladler, things didn't go south because he leads the pack through the final turn and onto the front stretch to close out this race. And actually, I think Tim Schroeder just gave the position to his teammate of Alizar to give him some more points. It's Dominic Ladler winning this race, then the AMGs of Alizar and Tim Schroeder. 4th will be Rondon Hood. He still should have the fastest lap time if I... No, actually, Enrico... No, he does have the fastest lap time with a...
Yeah, he's still got the fastest lap time.
37.219. Just that bit quicker than the 2 AMGs. Julian Chico in 7th. Lance De La Rosa in 7th. He has a bit of a better car, but that will hardly matter.
He's probably got a bit of tinnitus after doing that entire race practically with only 1 door on his car.
That is a very good point as well. Not sure we have that as a challenge listed, but still respect to him. Some further positions that changed further down. Tony Thomas, though, coming home in 10th. And lots of celebrations on the exit of turn 1. That's what we love to see. But what a race it has been. I think it was very, very entertaining. In the end, a forecast that did not finish, unfortunately, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, not a bad dropout rate, I don't think, but considering the race, it was very, very tight at the front, which is always fantastic to see for us. And for you guys watching, I'm sure you enjoyed that.
We'll take a look at the standings in just a moment's time. But yeah, I mean, it was a very insane race.
A lot of really close battling, repeated battling lap after lap. I think it's probably one of the best kind of for the lead fights we've had for a while, I'd say.
Yeah, indeed. And if we take a look at the updated standings, we see Dominik Lalas on 128 points now, Enrico Breuninger on 98, so he was able to leap by Julian Checo quite considerably, who also dropped behind Ali Zaya and Rowan Den Hood. So still 4 drivers in for the podium positions in the championship next time we go out to Daytona. And I think that will be very interesting because we had some interesting history at Daytona in RCL.
That's very true.
So,
and it's always a really fun race to watch. I look forward to Daytona.
Mark Hewitt getting up into the top 16 with the points he bagged today. And I think generally a lot of people that can be quite happy with their races. Tony Thomas and Cesco Morea going into the final race, equal on points with Tim Schroeder just 1 point ahead of them. So also still some stuff to play for there. Will it be the, well, driving half of the time, but generally finishing far upside the table? Will it be Mr. Consistency or Mr. Comeback? Those who follow RCL will know what I mean by that. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. I think today was a lot of fun. And of course, tomorrow we will be going to Spa with the RENNSPORT Road to Launch series. 35 minutes in the M2. Has been very entertaining last time out in Fuji. And we had some 3-ways in Daytona. So yeah, Spa I think will be very, very interesting. And
yep.
I'm looking forward to broadcasting that.
It's always a good racetrack. I don't think we really need to say it anymore, but we will every time it turns up. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be some fantastic racing from the M2s there.
But with all that said, I'd say good night for the time being, and see you all tomorrow when we go back racing here on RENNSPORT. Have a great evening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.